Hello and welcome to the podcast hosted by myself, Louis Kessinger, and my dad, Tommy. We are a part of the Kessinger Lee Group at Baird and have been serving investors in our area for 4 generations. Our goal is to start a conversation around topics within the world of finance and to educate you, our listeners. All right, welcome back to another episode of Father-Son Finance. This one is about legacy planning and trust. So we figured it was a perfect lead-in from the business owner to investor that we did last time. And we touched on a little bit about legacy planning when you get a windfall from the business owner to investor situation. But legacy planning is not just for business owners. It's really for everybody. And so today we are going to talk about it, and hopefully you can take something away from this.
Yeah, and it's really important to think about, okay, if I've created wealth, whatever that number is to you, if I've created wealth, how am I going to pass that to my spouse, to my children, to my grandchildren? How am I going to do that? Mm-hmm. How can I help them be the most successful? And it's really important. I will never forget, somewhere in early 1999, I went to my grandfather and I said, hey, I think you need to do a trust. And he said, oh, that's a great idea. He said, once I die, go ahead and do that. I said, okay, well, I need to do it while you're alive so that I know what it is you want me to do. So yeah, they're really important. The term trust, people, I said, you need to create a trust, and people automatically sort of back up. Mm-hmm. They're like, wait a minute, I don't know what that is. I want to be really clear on this podcast that you and I are not attorneys.
Nope.
We don't have law degrees.
Nope.
We cannot write last will and testaments. We cannot write trusts. What we do have experience is in once those awesome people write those trusts mm-hmm. and create those documents, we help our clients, mm-hmm. investors, to put those trusts in place, mm-hmm. to what we call fund the trust, mm-hmm. put money inside that trust for the benefit of the investor while they're alive. Yeah. There are benefits there, mm-hmm. and potentially their legacy, their mm-hmm. spouse, their children, grandchildren. So those are some of the big pieces that we're going to look at in this episode.
Yeah, and so when we talk about legacy planning, it is a whole lot more than who gets what. The house goes to my kids, and the vacation house goes to everybody, and this account goes to my grandchild, and it is so much more than that. And a lot of times it starts with values, vision, long-term impact. Hey, I was charitably inclined, and I want this amount of dollars to continue to be charitable dollars. And if you do not put that in place, then your heirs may not, they may want those dollars more than they want to give them away. And so really it's so much more than just, hey, this goes to you and this goes to you, and you all figure out the rest. And a lot of times it starts with telling a story.
Yes.
Hey, this is how I made this money. This is what I went through. This is how, I worked for 50 years to get here. And my vision for this money is X, Y, and Z. And a lot of times even just saying that to your kids is such a big first step in legacy planning.
Yeah, I think imparting your values, mm-hmm. Which you have probably been doing, with your children, adult children even, but telling that story. Mm-hmm. Hey, this is how this bucket of money. You don't have to give the amount. Mm-hmm. A lot of people are like, I don't want to tell my children what we have. I didn't ask you to do that. Mm-hmm. You can let them guess.
Yeah.
You can even tell them it's not a big amount of money. I still want you to know, what we sacrificed mm-hmm. to get this.
Yeah.
So anybody who has a net worth, right, above zero, basically has foregone spending today to put it away for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if you have anything over and above, then you didn't spend it, which means you sacrificed in some way something, whatever that is. And so I think telling your children, grandchildren, what those values, why there is this nest egg that is available. And then to your point, a vision. So a vision of, hey, you know, if I were to be alive, this is what I would have done. Or also important, this is what I would wish for you. We have a number of people who show up in our office who have just inherited a lump sum from a parent or grandparent or uncle or what have you, and they say, I have no idea what to do. I have no clue what dad wanted me to do with this. Mom never talked about this.
Yeah.
And I you know, that's a little bit of a disservice because now they're stuck. That they truly don't know what to do.
Yep. And that is such a tough situation to be in. And a lot of times we see the people who were in that situation. Hey, I've got, whether it's $50,000 and I just don't know how they would have is this supposed to go towards, you know, education for my kids, or is it selfish of me to pay off my house?
My student loan.
Yeah.
So it's not just for the ultra wealthy.
Right.
And that's a super important point you're making right here, Louis, is this is for anyone with an asset.
Right. And so a lot of times when you see the people who are in that situation where they're kind of stuck, they're kind of lost, what do I do? Why did they not plan for this and tell me what to do? Those are usually the people who are immediately, who do I go see for a will?
Right.
What is a trust?
They're the best estate planners.
How do I make sure that my kids do not have to deal with this?
Yeah.
That's a lot of times what they'll say. I want to make sure my kids don't feel like this.
So, you know, why do people avoid this? What are the most common things you hear?
Yeah. So to the first point we just made, I'm not rich enough. I don't have enough money for anybody to be worried about that. And as we just said, if your net worth is above zero, you do need to worry about it.
And if you don't have a plan, the state has a plan for you. And that plan looks like, if you're married, it goes to your wife. If you're not married, then half of it goes to your kids and half of it goes to your siblings. Like the state has a plan for you, and it may not be your plan.
It's probably not your plan.
Right.
And so then people will say, okay, well, you know, maybe I do have a little bit of money, but you know, I'm 30. I'm way too young. I don't need to worry about that until later. Almost kind of like my great grandfather, your grandfather. Like, well, just worry about that later. Well, we need to worry about it now because, not to be morbid, but something could happen at any given point.
Right. And
that's just a fact of life, an unfortunate one, but a fact nonetheless.
Yeah, and the other one is, well, that's just too complicated. It's amazing statistically. You know, it's been said people plan more for their next vacation than they do for their own passing.
And a lot of times it can be super simple.
Right.
Now, it can be really complicated, absolutely, but it can also just be, hey, we need to get some wills, you know, written and signed and dated, and you know, if we need to revise it at some point when we have kids, or you know, if something were to happen, then it's really not that complicated.
My favorite one on why people avoid this is, and I've been told this in my office on multiple occasions, well, I'm just not going to die.
Yeah, to which we have a ton more questions for you, sir or ma'am,
Yeah.
because how's that going to work?
Yeah. So far, nobody's gotten out of here alive, but you could, maybe you're the first. We don't know. You're going to need a lot of growth investments to sustain you for the next million years. But yeah, the I'm not going to die is not a plan.
Yeah.
Believe me, it is not a plan. But what we're talking about here are emotional barriers.
Yeah. And there's a fear of talking about death. There's a fear of death in general. It's an uncomfortable conversation for anybody. It's not fun.
It's our own mortality, right?
It's not fun to deal with or to talk about. So it is hard to start that conversation, but man, it's super necessary.
Also, maybe I don't want to go through this because I'm just going to create either actual family conflict, or I'm going to create a mental family conflict in my brain,
Right.
of who's going to do this and who's going to do that and who gets that and all those things. And I would just say, set those aside. I've actually, in my experience, I have had people that have divided up millions of dollars with great ease because it's math. You get so many shares of X, you get so many shares of Y.
Yeah.
That divides. What gets tricky are the things in the house. Who gets the dining room set?
Right.
Who gets the silver? Who gets mom's engagement ring? Who gets dad's watch?
Yeah.
Those are where it gets really tough. We're not going to go into that right now. All we're saying is have an idea. Please talk in big picture
Yeah.
to your children.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the role of trusts in legacy planning. And so a trust, like we said, is just a legal document that basically says, hey, here's what I want to have happen to the assets I have accumulated over my lifetime. And here are the people that I have entrusted to do that. So every trust has a trustee, and that trustee can be yourself.
Yeah.
As long as you're alive, you can be your own trustee, and you can change your mind. It's called a revocable trust.
Yep.
You can revoke that trust as long as you're alive. Once you pass, it becomes an irrevocable. Clearly, if you've passed away, you can't change your mind
Right.
from the grave. So those are the types of trusts that are out there. Big level. I can get into some crazy acronyms.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. We're just talking about when it's a revocable trust, you're alive, you can change it. When it's irrevocable, you've probably passed away, you can't change it.
Right.
You can also have irrevocable trusts as you're alive, but again, we're not going to get into to all of that.
That's more on the deeper in the weeds estate planning.
Way deeper. You need an attorney to help you with that.
Yeah.
This is flora and fauna. There's revocable and there's irrevocable,
Yeah, I
right?
can either
There's
put
animals
stuff in-
and there's plants.
I can put stuff in and take it out in irrevocable. If I put stuff into the irrevocable, or if I'm passed away, I can't take it out. It is set.
So what are the most common benefits of a trust? And you've got them listed here, so why don't you fire off several of them?
So he talked about, hey, if you don't have a plan, the state has one for you, and that is the probate process. And so you can avoid probate by using a trust. And so that is kind of benefit number one. Hey, my assets after I pass away are not tied up in probate, and they're going to who I wanted them to go to. So there's advantage number one. You also get to protect your heirs. So they don't have to make some of these decisions. They also aren't going to maybe get thrown into some really disadvantageous tax situations because, oh, mom and dad left me all this money and now I've got to, this threw me into a tax bracket I wasn't ready for. And I've got to run these, real estate properties, and I have no idea how to do that.
Right.
There's all kinds of things.
There's also in some of these trusts, there's the protection of heirs from outside lawsuits.
Yeah.
So you have a trust that benefits a child. That child gets into a car accident. Maybe they hit somebody. Was totally an accident, but there's still an outside lawsuit. That trust, those monies in that trust that you created are untouchable in that lawsuit.
Yep.
The child has a business. Everything's going great, and then all of a sudden the market changes and that business goes bankrupt. Well, guess what? None of those creditors of that business can touch that trust. So it protects
Super important.
your heirs. You worked your whole life to save this money, you don't want it going to somebody you've never met or ever heard of.
Yeah.
So then you can also control the distributions.
Yeah. And so in controlling the distributions, you can do that in many different ways. You can do it by saying, hey, this goes to you, and this other piece goes to the other sibling. But you can also control the distributions in that, hey, not all of this goes out at once.
Right.
This needs to be distributed over time. And so that could look like, hey, the income from all of these assets is going to go to my kids. And so that's really planning for your grandchildren's generation, because, hey, you made all this money throughout your life, and you now want that to help your kids, but you don't want to give your kids a big lump sum. You don't want them to go spend it on silly stuff throughout their life. And so you say, hey, my kids are going to get the income, and my grandkids will eventually get the distribution of the trust. And so that's just one of the ways that you can set it up. There's tons of different ways to set
Some
up.
people age band it.
Yeah.
So depending upon the age of your children, when you set these up and you say, hey, they can have 25% of this trust when they're 35.
Mm-hmm.
They can have another 25% of the value of that trust when they're 45, and they can have 50% once they reach 55. And people will use different arbitrary ages just because, through their lens of experience, like, okay, that's when I started making my best decisions.
Yeah.
But I want to help them along the way, so that those distributions can be age banded, percentage banded, as you mentioned there. Also, this is not as much anymore. There are potential tax benefits. Each of us has we can pass about $13.9 million to whoever we want, tax-free, no problem. Everything above that gets taxed at 40%.
Yeah.
So there are some trusts out there that can help you expand that number or use that number in a very efficient way.
Which, if you're keeping up, 40% is higher than the highest tax bracket
right,
that you would pay income-wise. So that hurts.
it's punitive
to pay 40%. I mean, that's tough. So there is a big advantage to using these trusts.
Right. So if you're married and the number they're kicking around in the bill that's before Congress right now is $15 million a person, $30 million. You're married. You've got a wealth of $40 million. And by the way, we haven't talked about this. Everything counts, and I mean everything.
Yep.
Your stocks, your bonds, your checking account, your life insurance, your IRAs, the jewelry in the drawer, the car in the garage,
Yep.
the house, the swing set. Everything gets valued.
Yep.
And so if you've got 40 million, 30 million's exempt, 10 million, you got a new partner.
Mm-hmm. Uncle Sam.
He's
back.
He's back. He gets 4 million, and then your kids get the other 6. So trusts can have an effect of helping you plan for that. There's also great gifting strategies we won't go into right now.
Yeah.
But let's talk a little bit. So that's trust. That's how big picture, how they work, what have you. But let's talk about the next generation, Lou.
Yeah. So a lot of this, we'll come back to where we started a little bit, is about, telling the next generation, your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids maybe, how you came to be in this situation. Again, whether it's 50,000 or 50 million, it doesn't matter. Imparting your vision and your values on your family is really, really important, and that can look a couple of different ways. That can be, hey, every Christmas we get together and Grandpa he tells the story of how he built his wealth, and it's really cool to hear his story because that's from so long ago, and it's cool to just hear about that time that he was alive when he was my age. That can also look a little more formal. That can look like a formal family meeting that you set up with advisors, attorneys, or just a consultant of some sort.
A family mission statement.
Yeah, a family mission statement, something that your family lives by, and they say, oh well, Grandpa always used to say, and that carries on for generations. But outside of the storytelling, it can also look like, hey, you talked about gifting strategies. There's an annual limit to gift tax-free each year, and so a lot of times in legacy planning, the generation with the wealth will start by almost testing the younger generations and say, okay, I'm going to gift you money each year. I have told you my values and my vision for this money. What do you do with that gift?
Yeah.
And, be careful, because a lot of times what you do with that gift
They're watching.
determines where you fall in the trust or don't. So that's one way that you can use gifting strategies with the next generation to kind of see, hey, how does my family react to receiving some amount of dollars? And then, that can encourage good behavior. That can encourage, getting a job. That can encourage, hey, you save for a down payment and we'll cover the other half.
Yeah.
Tons of different things that you can do. So what else about the next generation?
Well, I would just say that my experience in dealing with multiple generations over decades is that the more communication, the better.
Yeah.
The more, we had a family who the mother was really engaged in the arts locally in Lexington, Kentucky, and her family, honored that. They have made annual donations to various arts organizations around town with some of the income that they received.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened if they didn't communicate that. Other families have donated buildings to the University of Kentucky and to other outreach organizations. Insert your organization here.
Yeah, right. Fayette County Public Schools.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever it may be.
Those things were important. So I think just communicate as best you can. And I just want to emphasize yet again, you don't have to talk about amounts. Dollar amounts can be later. But have that conversation. So let's, in the time we've got left, let's talk about how do we get started and how do we avoid mistakes?
Yeah. So the first step to get started is, what in the world do I have?
Right.
And
all of it.
It's so funny because a lot of times people have no idea, or they just haven't done the mental register. They kind of think about, okay, the big numbers. All right, I've got $2 million in a IRA. I've got $2 million in an investment account, and my house is worth $1 million. And we go to Florida, and I've got a condo down there. That's it, right? No, it's not even close to it, because chances are you got a checking account, you
got life
car,
insurance.
You've got life insurance.
How's that life insurance title?
Things you haven't thought about in years.
Right.
Your watch that your grandfather gave you. Well, I didn't know that was a Rolex limited edition. Like, that's $100,000 watch. That's a significant amount of money that can really throw you into some different tax brackets and things like that. So all that to say, inventory your assets and inventory every asset.
Yeah. And then define your goals. Define your goals. We've talked about the values. We won't beat that drum again, but just define, what are your goals? We've got families with significant wealth who basically just say, my kids are getting X. Everything else is going to charity.
Yeah.
Fine.
Perfect.
Great. Go for it.
Yeah.
So what are your goals? That's super important. And then assemble your team.
Yeah.
So don't just talk to an advisor. Get them all together.
And you need all of them. You need an attorney to draft these documents. You need a financial advisor to help you with investments. You need a CPA, because like we talked about, you don't want to end up in that 40% tax bracket. That's a lot of taxes, and your heirs will be frustrated when they're the ones who have to pay them. And so work with all 3 or more of these advisors, because you have to make a team and make sure that those advisors are working together on
Yes.
your behalf, and that the financial advisor sees the estate documents and talks to the CPA when they're working on different gains and losses, and they need to be collaborating with you and with each other.
And so the key here, be sure to draft your estate documents or update. Maybe you just had a will because you were 25 and you were married and you had a kid, but now you're 45, you've got more kids or they're grown or whatever.
Yeah.
And you got to so update those old documents, dust those off, but get that done. And then we beat this horse pretty good, but communicate those items to your family.
And I'm going to touch on one more quick thing because, hey, your trusts and your wills are super, super important. There is your 401k and your IRA has beneficiaries on it. And again, if you didn't choose one, then the state will choose one for you on the beneficiary side. But also make sure it's up to date because, for me, my beneficiary is my mom, which is great. But a couple years down the road, it may need to be somebody else, and I need to not forget to go change that. And then, eventually you need to change it to your kids and, maybe down the road, your grandkids or whatever, whoever it is, you need to make sure that those beneficiary designations are correct.
How do we fail in this? What are the stumbling blocks?
Yeah.
So we've done all these things. We've talked to our family. We've done all this. We've assembled the team. We got these documents. We've done all these things.
Yep.
How can we screw this up?
So number one is what I just talked about. You don't update your documents. You get your documents done, and then
you don't
life
sign
changes 5-10 years down the road. Yeah, A, you don't sign them, or B, life changes down the road and you don't update them, and so they don't reflect your wishes as of now. The other way is, hey, I got everything funded. I'm super excited. I just did all this work with the attorney and the advisor and the CPA. We got the numbers all perfect. I didn't fund the trust.
I didn't put anything in it.
So what does that mean when you say fund the trust?
Yeah, some people actually will take the executed trust document and literally I've seen people tape $1 to the back. So they didn't retitle all their assets.
Yeah.
Their assets are still in their individual names, so they didn't put it into the revocable trust. And so that you did all this stuff, and now it's all got to go through probate. It'll get its way to the trust, but you just created a bunch of work that didn't need to be done.
Yeah.
So typically, and this is why you want to work with your financial advisor during this, because they'll help you retitle those assets. Yeah. It's super easy. It's your same Social Security number. It's really easy, but fund those trusts. And then, your heirs, don't keep your heirs in the dark. That's common pitfall. They need to know these documents exist so that when something happens to you, they know where to go find them, or they know the attorney to call or the CPA to call. So tell somebody.
Yeah, that's super important. Especially the contacts, like tell them who you're working with. You don't have to tell them the whole plan. Maybe part of it is, hey, I don't want them to know some of these dollar amounts, and that's personal preference. But there's still dollars and assets out there, and they need to know who to call. And then the last thing that we see is, oh, well, I did my own estate planning.
I wrote it out in hand, and my aunt witnessed it.
And so, okay, sometimes that's valid. Sometimes that's not. Regardless of whether it's valid or not, it's a whole lot easier to poke holes in. And so then everything that you just tried to avoid with your DIY estate plan and your heirs, saying, well, he told me last year that I get the 61 Corvette, and now they're suing each other and everybody's mad because, they all feel like they have a claim and your DIY estate plan isn't airtight. Shocking.
Yeah, it just didn't work. Well, this has been a lot.
Yes.
But trusts don't have to be super complicated, but they can be enormously helpful.
And just as important as the trust document and funding the trust, we've said it 100 times, but communicate your vision,
important.
your values, communicate your story,
Your wisdom
with your family, because they weren't there when, maybe your kids were 8-10 years old. You were at work sacrificing. They don't know that. And so, communicate your story with your heirs.
Yeah. And take that first step.
Take the first step. Thanks for listening.
This podcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not an offer to buy or sell, or solicitation of an offer to buy or sell any security or investment, or to participate in any particular trading or investment strategy. The information is considered to be from reliable sources, but its accuracy is not guaranteed. We do not offer legal or tax advice, so please consult your tax or legal professional for information specific to your situation. The opinions expressed are those of the speaker and not necessarily those of Robert W. Baird & Company Incorporated. Please note past performance is not indicative of future results, and diversification does not ensure a profit or protect against loss. All investments carry some level of risk, including loss of principal. You should carefully consider investment objectives and risks of any investment before investing. An investment cannot be made directly in an index. Securities and investment advisory services are offered by Robert W. Baird & Company Incorporated, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member NYSE, FINRA, and SIPC. You should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of each money market fund carefully before investing. This and other information is found in the applicable prospectus for the money market fund. Contact your Baird financial advisor for a prospectus. Please read the prospectus carefully before investing. Money market funds are managed to maintain a stable $1 share price. An investment in a money market fund is not insured or guaranteed by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation or any other government agency. Although the fund seeks to preserve the value of your investment at $1 per share, it is possible to lose money by investing in the fund.